we found a problem so great that it was brushed under the carpet for many a decade. There is a crisis in cosmology.
I'm always interested in any development which brings my people closer together.
It's a strange time in cosmology. It's an interesting time because we don't understand anything.
Because I'll kill you right now.
What are you talking about?
The good thing about science is that it's true whether or not you believe in it.
The science delusion is the belief that science already understands the nature of reality in principle, leaving only the details to be filled in.
What are you guys doing here?
Putting a fiber optic.
What is it for?
For the school.
For what though?
Just internet.
For what kind of internet?
E-text.
Does that have anything to do with 5G?
Yes.
So they're installing 5G here at this school? Do you know why they're doing it while all the parents are at home and nobody knows what's going on?
Well, this actually started since December last year.
Mm-hmm.
And this is nothing to do with what's going on or none of that.
Okay, so it's not being done behind our backs?
No.
Do you know that 5G is going to be very harmful for children and that cancer is going to skyrocket?
No.
What you're doing is going to harm a lot of children.
I hope not. I mean, I'm just a contractor for them, so.
I know. A lot of us parents are very, very concerned, though.
Yeah.
Maybe something you might want to talk about with your chain of command or something.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. You too.
What's this? 5G? Oh my god.
During a live stream right now.
Wow. Wow.
They just ran into guys.
Unbelievable.
So they just ran into guys on this live stream that they're recording right now. And they asked these guys what they're doing. Hey, they go, hey, are you installing 5G? Sure enough. Bam. 100% smoking gun proof that this is at least part of their plan. Installing 5G while everybody's inside.
Wow, guys. Guys, I have never seen the 5G.
See, this is literally live right now, currently.
Installed before this was going on. Now, here we go. The 5G. What's up, 5G guys? They just have a job. They just have a job. They're not going to ask any questions, right? And this is exactly how compartmentalization works.
Wait while I transfer your call.
High school office, this is Valerie.
Hey there. I just noticed some white vans in the parking lot. I was wondering if you could tell me what they were doing.
Who is this?
This is Jim.
Okay. From
Just from the city, you know. I was just wondering. I noticed they were contractor vans. I was just wondering if there was anything scheduled at the high school today for them to be working on.
Yep, we've got stuff going on.
Oh, is it related to the virus at all?
No.
Oh, is it anything to do with the 5G?
Claimed to be a member of a school board, and she was claiming that she was recently put on notice that while the schools will be shut down during this quarantine time, during the next few weeks, that private contractors will be hired to come out to many of the school districts to install brand new 5G systems. And if you haven't already heard on the last video where I talked about the impacts of 60 gigahertz frequency, just be clear, 5G is not all the same. Part of the confusion around is that it's ambiguous on purpose. They call everything G when it's actually a huge range of frequencies. G is going to encompass somewhere around 5 gigahertz all the way up to hundreds of gigahertz, okay, all the way up into the terabyte ranges. So we know that 60 gigahertz, and this is what I really wanted to hone in on, the 60 gigahertz frequency that is ultimately the plan for the network, the sort of hive mind Internet of Things network, that is the one that has very real implications and interactions on the oxygen molecule itself. What you need to know is this has not been tested by Telecom at all. They've admitted that themselves. Hasn't been tested on people, hasn't been tested on bees, songbirds, so it's criminal that 60 gigahertz or any actually of these millimeter waves would be released on people without finding out exactly what this interference with the oxygen molecule does to our health. What does it do to our lungs? What does it do to the air we breathe? They don't know because they haven't tested it. Anyway, I wanted to show you this reciprocation that this woman had sent to Logic Before Authority. Let me just go ahead and read it so you guys can get an idea of what she said. The first thing she said was this: I work for the local school board. 5G has been getting a lot of bad press lately. The U.S. Department of Education has been wanting to roll out the 5G network in many district schools. Unfortunately, the parents as a whole would try to stop the implementation of it, so the U.S. Department of Education decided to close the schools during the pandemic. She says for 2 reasons. 1, to make parents think it's for children's safety against the virus, and 2, to install 5G networks in many district schools. 5G companies have been instructed to use the guise of a, quote, disinfecting company. Strict orders. If anyone asks, you're a cleaning company there to disinfect the schools. Do not tell anyone that you are there installing 5G. All contractors must sign a non-disclosure agreement! Exclamation mark. Please help is how she ended that. Daniel got back to her by saying, we are talking about a worldwide situation. There's nothing going on just at your school district. However, what they are doing at your school district, they are likely doing across the nation. We don't need to mention the name of your county or the name of your state, but I do need the truth. Isn't that why I am here and you are here? This is important. She followed up by saying, yes, I just texted you that there is more classified information. She put classified in quotes because obviously it's not that classified, but says if they are doing this in my district, then they must be doing it nationwide. I also have other information I choose not to divulge, like names of contractors, dates, times, installs, and locations, etc. I didn't tell you nationwide. You figure that out for yourself. I have access to the U.S. Department of Education web server for my district. For some crazy reason, my login allows me to venture out of my district into other local districts and the national programs. I can't believe how many schools are going to roll out and implement the 5G networks in such a short period of time. Yes, it's the truth. Most of this has to be done by mid-April. The hundreds or thousands that may know it and be asleep have been notified that 5G is safe. But it has gotten bad press by the conspiracy theorists. We therefore ask you to refrain from acknowledging the public of this upgrade. We don't need parents with false fears of 5G in this time of the corona pandemic. Basically, she admitted that was not verbatim, but a close approximation of the email that she got. I assume it was an email, something that she logged into, whatever. Yes, please don't mention my district. Also, I'm one of a few in my state. I would appreciate anonymity. Okay, so that's not a lot of people. If this is true, there are people high up within the school boards that are elected, I guess, to positions of power within the state, the Department of Education, who know about this. There's a lot of states out there, guys. I'm thinking that we need to put this out and to see if you guys can either help me to confirm or deny this. The Logic Before Authority channel is calling this a confirmation. I don't call this a confirmation until we can see some sort of reciprocation, perhaps a screenshot of the email that they are seeing, perhaps a list of these contractors. I would be very happy and willing to put my neck out to help someone who wants to be anonymous and to show people what they need to know about what is happening potentially behind our backs.
All right, these cops are acting weird. How's it going? Question for you. Why are you writing my license plate down?
Any other questions you got?
No, I want to know why you're writing my license plate down.
Thanks for your question.
And why you're all standing around here. Why are there cops here at the school? What are you guys installing?
Any other questions?
No, you want to answer any of them?
Nope, I don't.
Why?
Because I don't have to. I don't want to.
Why are there 3 cops here that aren't even in cop clothes? I'm trying to figure out what. Are you going to church? I'm trying to figure out what everybody's doing at these schools.
Are you on private property there? Why are you parked in there?
That's a real deflective question.
It really is.
Why can't you answer any of mine?
I don't want to.
Because you're up to no good, aren't you?
Why don't you answer my question?
Are you trying to kill my kids?
I'm trying to kill your kids?
Yeah, what are you guys doing here?
You got some identification on you?
I don't think that matters.
We need to call some law enforcement over here.
I think we have some. Weird. I haven't done anything wrong. I have rights.
You're coming over here asking weird questions.
Weird questions
that you won't answer. You think people are trying to kill you?
No, I don't. I'm questioning if your guys are installing 5G in this school. Because I have it on a good source that you are.
Okay.
And will you answer that question?
Nope, I won't.
You won't answer
Nope.
it? Okay. I'll make sure to share this record with people.
You go do that.
Thank you.
I got your plates.
Is that a threat? You have my plates?
I got your plates.
So you're what, gonna show up at my house and do something? I'm not afraid of you, man.
And you think you're recording and you think that's appropriate? Why are you recording this?
Because it's suspicious. Because it's suspicious. All right?
You think people are trying to kill you?
I think that you guys are installing 5G and it's very dangerous.
Okay.
And you guys are told to lie about it.
Stop recording me. You don't have my permission to record me.
Okay, this is a free country.
Stop recording.
Goodbye.
Stop recording.
I don't think so.
I have 10 minutes. I wasn't sure I was going to get to this stage, but I can't help but say something about this whole coronavirus thing, if you want me to. In 1918, after the biggest pandemic, the Spanish flu pandemic of 1918, Steiner was asked, what was this all about? And he said, well, viruses are simply excretions of a toxic cell. Viruses are pieces of DNA or RNA with a few other proteins. They bud out from the cell. They happen when the cell is poisoned. They are not the cause of anything. And the cells get poisoned, they try to purify themselves by excreting debris, which we call viruses. If you go to the current theory of viruses called exosomes, and the latest head of the NIH giving a talk on the complexity of viruses, you will see this is perfectly in line with the current thinking on what a virus really is. I had a dramatic example of this when I was growing up. Right outside our house, there was a wetlands, and they're full of frogs, and the frogs kept me up at night, so I taped the windows, and in the spring they made a big racket. And then over time, the frogs were all gone. How many thinks the frogs had a genetic disease? How many thinks the frogs had a virus? How many think somebody put DDT into the water? That's what happened. Diseases are poisoning. So what happened in 1918? There was a huge, in every pandemic in the last 150 years, there was a quantum leap in the electrification of the Earth. In 1918, late fall of 1917, there was the introduction of radio waves around the world. Whenever you expose any biological system to a new electromagnetic field, you poison it, you kill some, and the rest go into a kind of suspended animation so that, interestingly, they live a little bit longer and sicker. And then starts in World War II with the next pandemic, with the introduction of radar equipment all over the Earth, blanketing the entire Earth in radar fields. First time humans have ever been exposed to that. In 1968, there was the Hong Kong flu, and it was the first time the Earth has a protective layer in the Van Allen belt, which essentially integrates the cosmic fields from the sun and the earth, from the moon and Jupiter, etc., integrates that and essentially distributes that to the living beings of the earth. And we put satellites emitting radioactive frequencies in the Van Allen belt. Within 6 months, we had a new viral pandemic. Why viral? Because the people are poisoned, they excrete toxins, they look like viruses. People think it's a flu epidemic. In the 1918 epidemic, the Boston Health Department decided to investigate the contagiousness of this. So they, believe it or not, took hundreds of people with the flu and they sucked the snot out of their nose and injected it into the healthy people who didn't have the flu, and not one time could they make the next person sick. They did this over and over again, and they were not able to demonstrate contagion. They even did it with horses who apparently got the Spanish flu, and they put bags over their head and the horses sneezed in the bag, and they put the bag over the next horse, and not one horse got sick. You can read about this in a book called The Invisible Rainbow by Arthur Furstenberg, who chronicles all the steps in the electrification of the earth and how within 6 months there was a new flu pandemic all over the world. And when you hear the normal explanations, how did it go from Kansas to South Africa in 2 weeks? So the entire world got the symptoms at the same time, in spite of the fact that the mode of transportation was horseback and boats, and there's no explanation for it. They just say, we don't know how that happened. But when you think about it, with these radio waves and other frequencies that some of you have in your pocket and on your wrist, you can send a signal to Japan and it arrives instantaneously. So any of you who don't believe there is an electromagnetic field that communicates globally within seconds just is not paying attention to this. And I will only finish by pointing out that there has been a dramatic and quantum leap in the last 6 months with the electrification of the earth. And I'm sure a lot of you know what that is. It's called 5G, where they now have 20,000 radiation emitting satellites, just like the radiation emitting thing in your pocket and on your wrist and that you use all the time. That is not compatible with health. I'm sorry to say it, it's not compatible with health. That is a water destructuring device. And for any of you who say, yeah, well, we're not electrical beings, we're just physical matter, then don't bother doing an EKG or an EEG or a nerve conduction test, because we are electrical beings and the chemicals are only the byproduct of those electrical impulses. And I'll finish with, anybody want to make one guess as to where the first completely blanketed 5G city in the world was? Exactly. So when you start thinking about this, we are in an existential crisis here, folks, the likes of which humankind has never seen. And I don't want to go all Old Testament prophet on you, but this is something that is unprecedented. The putting of 100,000 satellites in the very blanket of the earth. And by the way, as I was going to say earlier, this actually has something to do with the vaccine question. And this got brought home to me because about a year ago or so, I had a patient who came in who was totally fine, a surfer and all, and then he works as an electrician putting in Wi-Fi systems for very wealthy people. Electricians have a very high mortality rate, but he was fine. And then he breaks his arm and he gets a metal plate put in his arm. 3 months later, he couldn't get out of bed and was total, heart irregularities, just total collapse. The susceptibility has to do with how much metal you have in your body, as well as the quality of the water in your cells. So if you start injecting aluminum in people, they become receptors for absorbing increased electromagnetic fields, and that is a perfect storm for the kind of deterioration of the species, which is what we're now experiencing.
At its core, Agenda 21 is about control. Control of the land, natural resources, and entire populations. It seeks to control the air by regulation of carbon emissions, the ground by sustainable development, and the sea through environmental regulations.